Hello everyone, welcome to Wildwood Studio. I'm Sarah, and in this video I'm going to be burning on another leather wallet. But this time I'm going to add color, so I'm sorry in advance if I ruin it. I'm also going to talk a bit about how I did this burning and just chat while I work, so I hope you enjoy the process, and with that said, let's get into it. The first thing I did was trace the wallet into my sketchbook for size and draw out the basic design. I knew I wanted to make this video about adding color to leather burning, so I chose this peacock because I thought the color would suit it. The bright blue is definitely part of what drew me to the picture in the first place. I transferred my design onto the wallet using tracing paper and started burning. I started with the face and the eye. As always, I just like doing that because it shows the most progress the most quickly. And I used my ball tip pen, which is turning out to be my favorite pen for leather burning. This wallet was handmade by my friend Graham, who I think is probably a little annoyed with me for how long it's been sitting in my cupboard, so I'm glad I finally got to finish the last one he gave me. I just need to figure out what finish to put on these to protect them, so if anyone has a recommendation of a leather finish that won't darken the leather too much and ruin the burning, I would really appreciate it. Then, hopefully, I might be able to sell them and convince Graham to give me more of his stuff in the future. I'll probably have to put myself on some kind of time limit, or he won't believe that I'll ever do it. Making art is just one of those things where I always feel like there's something more important or pressing that I should be doing, and I can do this tomorrow, and that's how I end up going weeks between projects. This is vegetable tan leather, and it hasn't been coated in anything, so it's safe to burn. The picture I used as reference was taken by my friend Peter. I'll link to Peter and Graham's Instagrams both in the description if anyone is interested in some awesome photography or leatherworking. Oh, and while I'm at it, my husband made my new intro for this video, and I want to know what you guys think. He does digital art and came up with the idea of updating my intro and adding the drawing of me, since my intro up till now has just been a horizontal wipe of a picture of a piece of wood and then the same picture of wood with my channel name written on it. I think he thought it looked a little amateur, but he was just too nice to say so. I'll link to his Instagram too if you are looking for another artist to follow. I really liked this picture of the peacock because it has a lot of really nice detail with lots of different textures, like the small feathers on the face and the white section around the eye that's more wrinkly skin. I switched to my spoon shader for the body since it's a large smooth section and the feather texture was more implied in that area, so I didn't need to show each feather individually. Once I had gone over the whole peacock once, I went back in as always and darkened a bunch of areas. For some reason I never get enough contrast on the first pass, and having deeper shadows always makes an image stand out more. Next, I moved on to the feather on the other side. For this, I outlined it with my ball tip pen since the peacock feather is mostly a lot of individual strands. That made it really different than the shading I've done on other feathers recently, and it just kind of ended up with an outline. I think this puts it a bit at risk of looking too cartoonish, like if all the strands line up too perfectly, so I drew some of them overlapping each other to give it a more natural look. For the feather, I just drew it based on some references I found online. It's a lot more simple to draw, so I didn't need to rely as heavily on any specific reference like I do when I do burnings of animals. The top of the feather is more solid and just has a texture of lines going from the stem to the outsides, so I did the texture first and then layered the shading on top of that to create the peacock feather pattern. So this is the finished burning, and at this point I had several people telling me not to mess it up with paint, so you can let me know if they were right. But I've had these Angelus leather paints so long that the bottle of leather stripper has literally dried out, and I want to use them. Because this is a handmade wallet and not just some scrap of wood from my hoard, I did do a lot of tests before I actually painted the final wallet. And it was at this point in my testing that the people telling me not to paint it got louder because it was looking kind of bad, if I'm honest. I found that it was going on too thick and covering up the burning. So I decided to do a more elaborate test. For this one, I actually burned a second slightly rushed version of the peacock and the feather, just so that I could see how the paint was layering over all the different textures and shading. I definitely spent less time on this, but that's fine because it's just a test, and my brother said he likes it better because the bird looks so judgmental. But I see what he means. I learned a long time ago that when I'm drawing animal faces, the expression they end up with is just like a complete roll of the dice. For this one, I watered down the paint a lot more and was more careful, and I was a lot happier with it. I still thought the colors were too intense, but mixing color is one of my favorite things, so I knew I could just make them a little duller and darker for the final one. And it was at this point that I decided to ignore everybody I know and paint the wallet anyway. Of course, I started out with the feather because I thought that would be easier and give my confidence a little boost, and I immediately went outside the lines and spent the rest of the time periodically going back over that spot to try and fix it. I was really happy with the darker color though. I watered it down a lot so it didn't cover the burning so much, and I thought it looked a lot more realistic, and so that gave me hope that I wouldn't ruin all my earlier work. Burning this took me 3.5 hours, and that's not including all the extra burning that I did for my paint testing. For the peacock, I did the same thing and darkened the blue a little bit to make it more realistic. I also watered it down a lot and used a wider brush in the larger areas to prevent streaks. I definitely got some streaks anyway, but I went back over that area a few times and hopefully got rid of them. I also added a little white to the face, but I had to be careful not to overlap with the burning with any of the white paint, because for some reason it's a lot more opaque than the other colors and it just looks bad. Overall, I really like the Angelus paints. They were nice to work with, basically like acrylic paint, and they seem to have stuck to the leather really well. Here's a comparison between my final painting and my test. I like the darker, more translucent colors, but I have a friend who disagrees, so what do you think? And here are some pictures of the finished wallet with just the burning and then with the paint. What do you think of the color? I'm really happy with it. I'm glad I tried it, and I don't think it overpowers the burning, but maybe I'm wrong. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see more of my work, you can check out my Facebook page or follow me on Instagram. Also, please make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss all my future art videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.